It's Will Reyes. This is Reyes Investigations Part 2. We're going to take a look at Saturn because the Sun has just entered Saturn not too long ago, and now, for the first time in about 29 years, Saturn has entered the sign of Capricorn where it belongs. And I made a few interesting connections between Saturn, sex magic, Indigo Children 666, and a few other things. So let's just get to what I was getting at. Just to get a base, just a base. Carbon forms more compounds than any other element and is known as king of the elements. Saturn, the planet, is a carbon planet. The pressure on this planet in the air is so strong and dense that diamonds rain to the surface. Something that Earth does at the core. This place is so pressurized that diamonds literally fall out of the sky. It is known as the black planet as well. It's a gas giant. It's 1/8 of the Earth's density, but 95 times the overall volume. In 1981, it is told that a Voyager mission discovered a persistent hexagonal-shaped cloud pattern rotating around the North Pole continuously with a vortex on the inside. So if you imagine what a planet looks like, on top of it, on top of Saturn, is a hexagonal-shaped cloud that's just continuously turning around and around, and it's just stuck in position doing that shit. Why is this kind of interesting to me? It goes to with like witchcraft and black magic having to do with cursing people and putting hexes on people. And if you've seen any of these movies where they would do black magic, they'll put like a hexagon shaped on the ground and use that as some type of a ritual. Interesting shit, right? But it gets even more interesting. Like, all right, for instance, Avengers, the first Avengers movie, Loki arrived to Earth standing on the black hexagon. Just to throw that out there. It's in the South Pole. There's a giant hurricane that's been going along for billions of years, supposedly. They don't know, but they theorize that it's been going on for a long time. And it's locked into position on the South Pole. And this is the only place in our solar system, or it might, I don't think it's just the solar system. I mean, just like out in the whole universe, but I know for sure the only place in the solar system that has an eye inside of its storms. Like it's a hurricane with an eye placed on the South Pole. And that's interesting to me when you get back to like the black magic and the rituals of like using the hexagon shape. Now you have if you know anything about the all-seeing eye, you have literally an eye at the South Pole of Saturn, which is a place that has a lot to do with worshiping, like, what I don't know what people would say, like negative deities or creatures from the void. But we're gonna get there. All right, we're gonna get there. We're not there yet. Let's see. Every 28 or so years, around the same time that people hit their Saturn return, around there's a great white storm on Saturn. It's literally called the Great White Spot. And I looked up for what causes this storm. It's this thing called convection. It's something we all have to deal with. And even when you're dealing with inner alchemy or just trying to evolve as a human being, like convection has a lot to do with it. All right, lower density carbon suppresses convection. Well, let's get to what convection is first. Convection is heat transfer in fluid, gas, or molten rock. Then you get to the high density carbon thunder causes a thunderstorm that breaks into the lower layers. That's where it gets a little bit interesting because you have Satan that came to Earth in the lightning strike. Okay, let's see. this is basically the whole point of the video right now. It's the Indigo children planets. I can go. All right, there's a lot of different phases of the Indigos. There's it goes back to like the 60s, 70s, but I'm gonna focus specifically on the Delta Indigos, born between 1988 and 1998. They supposedly, I don't know a lot. Like I've done this research on Indigos. I'm no like Indigo historian. The only Indigos with pure indigo color, 1988 and between 1988 and 1998. And the Saturn return is what's going on right now. Cause all right, let's get there. And then the Omegas, they were born between 1998 and 2008, and they were supposedly the last of the pure colored indigos. Why is that interesting? Because of the 3 Capricorn generation. The only reason I really know this is because I fall under this guideline, this energy. Between February 14th, 1988 and May 26, 1988, then it starts again December 2nd, 1998 and February 6th, 1991. Oh, okay, I wrote that down wrong. December 2nd, 1988 in between February 6th, 1991. That's the conjunction was Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all in the sign of Capricorn. The last time this happened was 1485 in Sagittarius, which was February 6th, 1485, and March 23rd, 1485. And it starts again because one of the planets leave retrograde. I assume October 22nd, 1485 until January 2nd, 1486. So, okay. These are 2 philosophies that I've looked at that come together because in the Indigo children, if you hear like a big thing with those are the Saturn returns. So why is that important? Because the so-called pure indigo colored children are supposedly supposed to arrive around the same time that the 3-time Capricorn generation started in 1988 to 1998. Then the second would be 1998 to 2008. So where's this all getting to? Because in the Bible, in a lot of religious texts, they'll tell you things like fear 666, to fear that it's an evil number, that it's the Satan number, which is where I'm about to. We probably it's not like some hidden fact that 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, and 6 protons that equals carbon. So if they're saying that fear 666 in this realm, that's where it gets kind of hazy because it's like what exactly are they referring to? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, they didn't have science back there. They if you look up ancient Kemet or Egypt or Greece, they knew a lot about the periodic table and the planets. They even have old clay sculptures of planets from thousands of years ago. So this isn't like we have to get off the fact thinking that we're like this insanely progressed society. So we got 666, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, and 6 protons, no neutrons. So the interesting thing about that is that beings with more carbon inside are supposedly they have a darker hue, and there's usually no life without carbon. There's humans who have small amounts of carbon, and then there's some who have a lot, or just things in general. Usually things that are darker have more carbon inside, and when it's studied, it absorbs sunlight, it's formless, and it's very close to a plant's chlorophyll, which causes photosynthesis. interesting. When a baby is an embryo, one of the first things it does is form this thing called the pineal gland. With the pineal gland, it secretes um secretes carbon, but what people call it is like melanin. It's just a different name for it. And okay, that's where you get things like becoming the light bringer, the shadow, and that being like part of your subconscious being your shadow self, because you get to the point where you can see that all of this kind of correlates when it comes to how things are in the Western world. Because if you look at things like ancient Buddhism, they're deep into like the pineal gland and just trying to go deep into yourself and manifest and meditate through it. While we got a Western civilization that's more polytheistic and looking towards aspects trying to help you instead of doing it doing some of the work yourself. And that's okay. So in a way, they tricked black people into hating themselves. If you, in a weird way, it kind of seems like that. Because if black people grow up thinking that 666 is some evil, demonic number, and they're, because we are not only psychologically bred to hate things that are more, I guess, I don't know, indigenous or more nature wise. But now they got us hating our own nature by thinking that it's some evil shit. Because you get into like things like the meditation, and it makes me think about this game I used to play called Assassin's Creed, where you get hooked up into this. You play this character. You get hooked up into this machine, and you go through his old ancestors' thoughts. Well, his old life, because you're trying to find his old ancient like artifact, but you don't know where it's at. You're trying to find it before the other group finds it, who can use it for bad or whatever. What this game is trying to tell you is that your blood is nothing but data that you can tap into. Because by the end of the game, this dude who had no training outside of his own mind and unlocking his own dormant DNA through what would be things like the pineal gland and just doing the dark shadow work to, I mean, it's done through technology, but you can do this shit on your own. By the end of the game, this dude is climbing walls. He's an assassin, but he's throughout the game, you don't really see. There's like a trilogy of these games. The person you're playing is that's controlled inside of the machine to look inside of his blood. That guy, you don't do really much action with him. But by the end of the third game, this guy can do everything that the assassin could do from his ancestry years ago. So what that's trying to tell you is that this shit is layered deep, dormant inside of you. Then you get to things like Christianity and tell you that things like Satan, or they created the Baphomet image to put into Satan, that it's evil. But then you look a little bit deeper, not even that far deeper, and you find out things like, hold on, if Capricorn, the Baphomet, is the symbol for Satan, then why is the day that people celebrate Jesus' birth during Capricorn season? It almost doesn't make sense, right? If Capricorn's evil and the Baphomet's evil, then why would you celebrate the birth of Jesus during this evil time? And that gets it to like in the Bible, Satan says something to the sense of that he is the light bringer, he is the morning star. And by the end of the Bible, that's what Jesus says. He said, I'm the morning star. So what the morning star is referring to is the light coming from the darkness of the pineal gland, your shadow side. And that the whole Baphomet thing, that's where you get the the phrase scapegoat, because they're gonna blame everything on the goat. All the bad things is the goat's fault. It's the devil. Capricorn, the Baphomet. Blame all your problems on that. You can break it down to what the pineal gland is. It's the third eye. It's the first eye that's formed when you're born. These are just I don't know, receptors, ways that you can see the waves. But at the end of the day, it's just a wave. This is just you're seeing it. But the difference between seeing it is like, okay, there's only one sense, and that's touch, because something touches your eyes, or the sound wave touches your ears, or the smell touches your nose, or the taste touches your mouth. Because even if you want to go intuitively, that you think not that you could think, because people can actually you can channel energies, but at the end of the day, it's energies that's interacting with your magnetic field. So in a way, that's just touch too, and then everything's connected. So at the end of the day, you're touching it, even if you're whoever's whoever happens to be watching this video. May it be later today, 50 years from now. Like my energy is interacting with yours on the sound frequency. It's so weird when you look deeper and deeper into it. But yeah, is anything else? Okay, got that. Morning Star. So it also gets to mythology, where this is basically what it's all about. When people are trying, you hear, I'm on what people call spiritual Twitter. I don't claim to be an astrologer or anything like that, but it's some interesting information that's on there. But then you have people saying things on there like they're channeling, like Osiris, or they're channeling Lilith, or channeling blah blah blah. And that's where they get to the mythology of this aspect, where what Capricorn, the story of it is, you have Uranus and Gaia. Actually, it was first Gaia, the Earth, who created Uranus, the star, the heaven realm, who then birthed Saturn. Saturn, then known as Kronos, he grew up to be the king, basically. He feared being overthrown by his children, so he ate his children. He ate Poseidon, he ate Hades, he ate Hera, he ate Juno, and he ate Ceres. But the youngest of all those gods was hidden away, and that was Zeus, who later fought the war against the Titans and defeated them and took them all to Tartarus, the place where it's basically like a hell for the ancient realm. They took the blood and the ash. This is where like it all comes together in this. Kronos being the Capricorn, Saturn, melanin, carbon energy. The story of that is that they took the ash and the blood of Kronos and created man. So what the story is trying to say here is that there's these things called Titans, and there's the Titans there's the gods that's under it, their children. The Hades, the Zeus, the Poseidon. Then you have Kronos, the father. But with this ancient mythology story, if you combine it with everything else we just went over, what it's trying to say is that carbon is this energy or force that was made to create the universe. Gaia and Uranus made carbon, which was the matter for the entire universe, and what that being destroyed and being used to create or animate through clay what would be the original man of Earth. More powerful in the sense of this than the gods. It's very similar to the Wonder Woman movie. It's the exact same thing. But Wonder Woman's more of the Aquarius story, but the Aquarius and Capricorn story is very linked together. That's why they are signs right next to each other. And basically, what the story of mythology is that Capricorn is like Aquarius's sun. So, whew, with all that said, is there anything else I can just throw out there? Oh yeah, after I figured this out that there's a connection between this was months ago when I figured this out. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put it out around the time my Saturn returns, just because it can be like fitting, right? But I think I'm done studying astrology now. At least like diving deep. I might look up at it every once in a while, but I don't. I feel like I need to move on to something else now because I gotten here to just find some, well, what astrology has done, what it really does for everyone. It just gives you the education or the information. When I first got into astrology, it was because, I mean, everyone's almost always a little bit into it. Like they know their sun sign, they know, well, they basically that's all they know. When I looked up my sun sign along with my ex's sun sign, and it described perfectly how our relationship was, I was like, it has to be more to this. So I started diving deeper. Now I'm at the point where I have a lot more knowledge on it, and I've made a few interesting discoveries, like when I stated that Aquarius is an air and water sign, which goes against conventional wisdom. That I feel like it's correct, and later in the future that I don't feel like I'm the first one that came up with it, but I feel like I'm one of the first that's realized that Aquarius has the Pisces water on the inside. That they're an air sign, but they're also a water sign if you look at the mythology of it and if you really look at it, because it's kind of like the occult in a way. It's hidden right in front of you. It has the word aqua in it. It's just that you have to figure out what that's supposed to mean, and it's kind of basic when you really just think about it in simplistic forms, which is basically what the cult's about. It's about the feeling. And now that I've connected the Indigo children with the three times Capricorn generation 1988, I feel like I need to. It's time to move on to something else. I think I'm gonna, because at the end of the day, when I got into astrology, it wasn't for some spiritual enlightenment. It's given me knowledge, but it's all for me. It's all about the feeling. I got into it because I'm a psychologist. I've been looking. I got into it because the psychology aspect of it, the nature versus nurture, um, just the knowledge of like how the human mind works, and it's given me a lot of information. Yeah, but on the spiritual aspect of it, it just gave me or anyone else that studies it the education behind the feeling that they already have. Because if you're looking into astrology, it's usually because you have this that feeling that there's some that you just don't know that you're trying to look into. You might even like get into something like yoga or meditation during the time you start getting into astrology. But at the end of the day, it's just describing a feeling. Like I was just talking to someone who said they had experiences, supernatural experiences when they were children. And now that they feel it's good that they know that they have the information on it. Now that they want to channel and shit now. But it's like, okay, if you had experiences when you were a child before you had the knowledge, then why do you need to know the knowledge? The knowledge is just confirming the feeling. It's like that's how obvious it is. But the knowledge is good. It's a good first step. If you don't, for those who don't feel connected to this type of information. So yeah, I think I'm going bio next. I studied astrology, psychology. Now I have to go deep into bio. See if I can figure out some things about that too. I've made predictions with astrology. I'm not like trying to toot my own horn here, but I feel like this might be my last astrology just post sequences for a while. Unless someone wants to just talk about astrology, but the whole point of astrology is to get past it. Is to get to okay, imagine that this is a pool of energy way high in the sky or in a different dimension, right? Astrology is telling you that where's the sleeve? All right. Astrology is basically telling you that let's just take a Libra for instance that okay, if you take this little piece of this wide energy and bring it down here at this specific moment with these frequencies, you get a Libra, a Libra energy to start out with. But at the end of the day, the Libra energy is still connected to the whole of where everything is from, which is like the story of like basically everything that there's a connection greater. But with astrology, people get stuck in just knowing astrology, thinking that that's everything. But when the truth is that there's an energy beyond astrology. But it's because what governs astrology, what gives the energy to that. Energy is just what flowing information I hear. This is pretty fitting. So, with all that said, that was Ria's Investigations Part 2, the Saturn. It's pretty interesting stuff, man. Just feel it. If I have one last statement for this video, is that just feel it. That's all you have to do. Feeling and going with your gut, going with the flow, living in the moment, just going. With that, you can do just about anything.